Chosen one. The phone rang, but something in your spirit froze before you could even move your hand. That was not a normal call. It came with a strange vibration, an energy that didn't belong to peace, but to disturbance. You felt it, that slight unease in your chest, the whisper in your intuition saying, "Don't answer." God was already protecting you before you even knew there was danger. This message, this moment, is not about paranoia, it's about discernment. Because the higher you rise, the more the unseen world tries to reach you through ordinary things. A message, a text, a voice on the other side pretending to care. But behind that voice might be a shadow, an agenda, a test disguised as concern. The divine doesn't always warn you with thunder. Sometimes it's silence that screams the loudest. You're not here by accident. You've been guided to this moment for a reason far beyond coincidence. Someone has been thinking about reaching out, but their purpose is not pure. This is your confirmation. When your inner peace trembles before a name appears on your screen, trust it. That tremble is heaven's alarm bell. Write your warmest wishes in the comments and seal them with 99. It's how you speak your intent into the universe. Don't ignore this sign. If your spirit woke up while listening, don't scroll away. Like this video. Subscribe now. You belong here. The same energy that led you to this message is the one protecting your future. That call was not just a human reaching for you. It was a pull from your past, trying to reopen a closed door. It might be someone you once trusted, or someone who once drained your light while pretending to need it. Remember this truth. Not everyone who misses you deserves to reach you again. Sometimes the voice that says, "I miss you," is really saying, "I miss your energy." You are not cold for guarding your peace. You are wise for recognizing what heaven already exposed. There are people who call you not to check on you, but to check your energy. They want to know if the fire in you still burns as bright. God is saying, be careful. The enemy does not always knock on your door in anger. Sometimes he calls you with a smile. Sometimes he sounds gentle. Sometimes he sounds broken. And sometimes he sounds familiar. That's the trap. Your discernment is your armor. Your silence is your shield. The moment you pick up that phone, you open a gate, and not every gate leads to light. When you feel the vibration and your spirit whispers, "Don't," that's not fear. That's divine intuition. Learn to pause before you respond. Learn to protect the peace that took you years to find. You've been asking God for signs, and here it is. That uneasy feeling you get before answering is not random. It's a spiritual warning coded into your soul. Someone's words might sound soft, but their intention is sharp. Be slow to trust again. The chosen are often targets of curiosity, envy, or confusion. People sense something divine in your energy, and they want to touch it, even if they don't understand it. But you, chosen one, are not required to explain your silence or your distance. Protection sometimes looks like ignoring a call. And when God says, "Don't trust that caller," it's not rejection. It's redirection toward your destiny. The phone rings again, chosen one. This time softer, like a whisper in the night. The number looks harmless, maybe even familiar, but something in your gut twists before you can breathe. That is not coincidence. That's the divine frequency inside you alerting you that danger can sound polite. The higher your vibration climbs, the more the dark tries to disguise itself as comfort. That's why you've been feeling an odd pull lately, a strange nostalgia, an unexpected text, a voice that tries to sound like safety but hides deception underneath. You're being tested not by words, but by energy. Every time you resist the urge to answer, you pass a spiritual test that your old self would have failed. You're not here by accident. You were guided to this message because heaven has been watching the calls you've ignored and the messages you've deleted. That's divine growth. Write your warmest wishes in the comments and seal them with 99. Because each time you release your intention to the universe, you strengthen your shield. Speak it out. Let it echo through this space. If your soul is resonating right now, don't scroll away, like this video. Subscribe now. You belong here, among those who hear God's whispers before danger speaks. The energy you give here feeds your protection in ways unseen. That caller is not just someone on a phone line. It's a frequency trying to pierce your peace. They might pretend they've changed or act like they want closure, but what they truly want is access. Energy thieves don't always come shouting. They come softly, like a friend checking in. But you've already learned that not every apology is genuine, and not every "how have you been" is innocent. When you rise in light, darkness grows desperate to connect again. It calls, it texts, it stalks, it disguises itself in familiar tones, hoping you'll forget the lessons you paid for in pain. But this time, you won't fall. Because this time, you feel the vibration not just in your phone, but in your soul. You've been through seasons of betrayal and confusion, and now you're standing in a sacred threshold between the old world and the new one. Every call you don't answer is you saying, "I choose peace over chaos." Every silence you maintain is a declaration that you've matured beyond manipulation. God's voice is subtle but steady, and it often speaks through discomfort. That uneasy feeling when you see a name appear, that's the Spirit's way of saying you've already seen what they bring. Do not let it back in. The devil studies patterns, and when he sees you healed, he uses familiar voices to reopen old wounds. But your silence is now your sermon. The world will not understand why you're distant, why you're cautious, why you no longer pick up every call. But heaven understands. God is separating frequencies, dividing the true from the false, the pure from the poisoned. You are not losing people. You're losing access points the enemy used. Every unanswered ring is a victory for your destiny. The next time that vibration hits your palm, breathe deeply. Remember this moment. You don't owe explanations to anyone who once broke your peace. The same way God closed doors, He's now blocking signals. Be still. Your protection is divine. Chosen one. Imagine this scene. You're standing in a quiet room. The phone vibrates again, and for a split second, time slows. The light in the room feels different, the air thicker, because something spiritual just entered your space. That's not fear, that's discernment. God's warning doesn't always come as thunder or vision. Sometimes, it's that tiny hesitation that stops your hand before it reaches the screen. The unseen realm communicates through feeling, and lately, you've been feeling everything. You felt the pull, the tension, the strange energy that lingers after certain names appear. You've been sensing that someone's trying to slip through the cracks of your peace, not through your door, but through your attention. Every call is an energy exchange, every message a potential portal. You are not paranoid, you are sensitive to frequency. And in this season, God is fine-tuning your sensitivity so you can detect deception before it enters. Some people are calling not because they miss you, but because their life is chaotic again, and they remember that your light brought order. But you've grown beyond being their emotional medicine. You've learned that empathy without boundaries becomes self-destruction. The old version of you would have picked up. The awakened version of you lets it ring and keeps breathing in peace. That silence is your power now. There's something you need to understand deeply. Chosen one. The enemy doesn't always appear as the villain. Sometimes he sounds like the person you once prayed for, the one who just wants to talk. Sometimes he hides in concern, saying, "I was just checking in," when in reality, they're checking your vulnerability. Be aware. God allows certain calls to come, not so that you answer them, but so you can prove to yourself that you've healed. When you decline that call, heaven applauds quietly. When you resist the urge to reply, you close a spiritual gate that could have drained months of your peace. There will be moments when your heart argues with your intuition. It'll say, maybe they've changed. Maybe I should answer. But your spirit knows. Your spirit remembers what your heart tries to forget. Listen to that still, small voice that says, "Not this time." It's not coldness, it's wisdom shaped by scars. You've forgiven, yes, but forgiveness does not require re-entry. The energy that once hurt you may come wearing new words, but the vibration is the same, and you can't elevate while entertaining the same frequencies that once broke you. You are evolving, and evolution comes with isolation. Don't mistake divine separation for loneliness. God is filtering your connections, not to punish you, but to preserve you. When he says, "Don't trust that caller," he's not being harsh. He's being loving. Because behind that voice might be manipulation, curiosity, or a spiritual trap designed to pull you back into confusion. You're not obligated to respond to anything that disturbs your calm. Every time you ignore a disguised distraction, you declare to the universe, "I am aligned with peace, not chaos." And in that declaration, heaven moves things in your favor silently, powerfully, unshakably. Chosen one. There comes a moment when your silence becomes louder than any reply you could ever give. You've reached that point. The call rings again. Maybe from a number you once knew by heart. Maybe from someone who once knew how to make you doubt yourself. But this time, the vibration feels different. You don't feel the urge to answer. You don't feel guilt. You feel peace. That's how you know you've stepped into divine maturity. God has rewired your instincts to recognize spiritual traps wrapped in friendly tones. You've stopped mistaking familiarity for safety. And now the same call that once stirred anxiety only makes you smile, because you know, not every connection is meant to continue. Not every voice deserves access to your calm. They'll say you've changed. They'll say you've become distant, guarded, cold. But the truth is, you've become selective. You've learned the art of spiritual self-defense. The ones who once manipulated your kindness can't reach you now because you've built walls of wisdom around your soul. They think silence is weakness, but silence is strategy. You've learned that energy speaks louder than words. That's why you no longer explain yourself to those who only listen to twist your truth. You no longer chase closure from people who benefited from your confusion. God has already closed those chapters, and now every missed call is a reminder that your peace is more valuable than their validation. This is not just about ignoring a phone call. It's about rejecting old energies that carried lessons you've already learned. Every time your phone lights up with a name from your past, ask yourself, does this vibration match my elevation? If the answer is no, then let it ring. You don't owe curiosity your energy. You owe your destiny your focus. The world will test your boundaries through the voices that once broke them. But you've grown. You can feel intentions now. You can sense hidden motives before words are even spoken. And that's why God trusts you with greater purpose, because you finally trust your intuition more than your emotions. Some of the people calling you are not reaching for conversation. They're reaching for connection to your light. They feel lost, confused, or empty. And they remember how your presence once made them feel alive. But you cannot be everyone's healer when you're still protecting your own energy. Sometimes, the most loving thing you can do is stay silent, because when you no longer feed their chaos, you force them to face their own shadows. You've become a mirror, and not everyone can stand their reflection. So when God says don't trust that caller, it's not a warning made of fear. It's a declaration made of love. He's saying, I've brought you too far to let them drain you again. Trust that every delay, every ignored ring, every sudden disconnection is divine choreography. The silence you keep today will echo as blessings tomorrow. You don't need to defend your intuition. Your peace will prove everything in time. Be still, chosen one. The noise on the line is fading, but heaven is speaking clearly now. Chosen one. The world around you feels quiet, yet your spirit knows something is moving. You sense it. The tension before the next test. The silence after the warnings. The stillness before the storm that isn't meant to destroy, but to reveal. That's where you are now, in the space between caution and confirmation. You've already felt heaven's whisper telling you don't trust that caller. And even though your human side wants to believe that maybe, just maybe, people change, your soul knows that discernment is more reliable than hope. You are not paranoid. You are protected. Every ignored message, every blocked number, every unanswered ring is a layer of armor around your purpose. That call is not random. It's a vibration from your past trying to see if your faith still has cracks. The enemy studies your patterns, waiting for moments of weakness, trying to reach through nostalgia, guilt, or curiosity. But you've evolved. You've become someone who listens to silence more than excuses. You've learned that peace is a language too. And when peace leaves the room, you listen. You're no longer chasing connections that cost you clarity. You're no longer seeking warmth from the same fire that once burned you. You know now that not every familiar voice carries love. Some carry lessons you've already graduated from. And still, there's compassion in you. You're not bitter. You don't hate them. You've just outgrown them. There's a softness in your distance, the kind that comes from healing. You don't wish them harm. You just refuse to hand them your energy again. You understand now that trust is sacred currency, and you no longer spend it on promises that don't align with peace. When God says, Be careful. He's not restricting you. He's refining your awareness. He's showing you that discernment is love. Love for yourself. Love for your future. Love for the mission He placed in your hands. Every spiritual battle begins with a small decision. Answer or ignore. Engage or retreat. React or stay still. Those small choices decide the weight of your destiny. That's why this moment matters. When that phone rings again, remember everything you've survived. Remember the nights you prayed for clarity, the tears you shed asking for protection, the times you begged for peace. Those prayers became the very intuition that's warning you now. Trust that inner alarm. It's not fear, it's faith guiding you. You are entering a season where discernment will save your destiny. Not every connection is divine. Not every voice deserves to echo in your space. You've reached the stage where silence is your greatest answer, and distance is your strongest defense. You're not being cold. You're being called. And when God calls you forward, He often quiets the noise behind you. Stay alert, chosen one. The final test isn't always loud. Sometimes it's as simple as a phone that keeps ringing, waiting to see if you've really learned to listen to God over everyone else. Chosen one. There's a sacred weight in this silence, isn't there? You've ignored the call, but something inside you keeps replaying it. That's not doubt. That's your spirit adjusting to a higher level of peace. When God elevates you, He also detoxes your atmosphere. That's why everything feels quieter now. Fewer messages, fewer voices, fewer distractions. It's not rejection, it's refinement. You've entered a season where heaven protects you by subtracting what no longer aligns. That's the mystery of divine isolation. It feels lonely, but it's holy. The world calls it distance. God calls it defense. The caller may try again, maybe with a new number, maybe through someone else, maybe through curiosity disguised as care. But you already know the energy, that hidden urgency, that guilt-infused warmth. They'll say, "I just wanted to hear your voice." But what they mean is, "I want to check if your peace still belongs to me." They'll sound remorseful, maybe even broken. Yet, if you listen beneath their words, you'll hear the vibration of unfinished manipulation. God warned you because He knows that your heart is still kind, still open, still ready to believe that people mean well. But He also knows that purity without boundaries becomes an open door for destruction. There is a divine reason why this warning came to you now. You are being prepared for a greater stage, one where not everyone can follow, not everyone can be trusted. You're being positioned for a purpose that demands emotional discipline and spiritual awareness. That's why every false connection is being filtered out of your life. The higher the calling, the stricter the isolation. You are not being punished. You are being trained. Every blocked number, every unanswered ring is part of your initiation into clarity. You've been anointed to move differently, to speak less, to sense more, to act only when heaven confirms. You might feel a sting in the silence, but that pain is sacred too. It's the echo of old habits dying. The version of you that once needed closure or validation is fading. You no longer need to prove that your intuition is right. Your peace already does that. You no longer crave explanations from those who betrayed you. Their absence explains everything. This evolution is spiritual, not emotional. God is whispering, I trust you now to guard what I've given you. That's why the tests are subtle. That's why the temptations come softly, in familiar tones and harmless questions. The devil doesn't need to shout when he knows your heart still listens for echoes of the past. But this time, your spirit hears the difference. So, chosen one, when that next call comes, and it will, remember who you are now. Remember the light you've built, the storms you've survived, the nights when your only comfort was God's silence. That call doesn't deserve to break what heaven healed. You've reached the stage where discernment is no longer optional. It's sacred duty. Every moment you choose stillness over reaction, you ascend. Every decision to protect your peace sends a ripple of strength through the unseen. God is proud of you, not for fighting battles loudly, but for walking away quietly. You're not avoiding the world, you're aligning with your purpose. And soon the silence that once felt empty will begin to sound like guidance. Because when God says, don't trust that caller, He's not just saving you from deception. He's leading you into destiny. Chosen one. The phone rings one last time. The sound feels distant now, like a memory trying to reach you. But your spirit doesn't move. You've already learned the rhythm of divine silence. And this moment, right here, is your final test. That vibration you hear is not a call. It's temptation disguised as familiarity. The enemy has nothing new to offer, so he recycles old voices. He replays the same tone, the same words, hoping you'll forget the pain they once carried. But your soul remembers. It remembers the weight of drained energy, the nights of confusion, the heaviness that followed every time you answered what heaven told you to ignore. You're not cold for protecting your peace. You're wise for recognizing that not every hello deserves a response. This story has never been about a phone call. It's been about spiritual discernment, about learning to trust that small, sacred voice that whispers, don't. It's about realizing that when God removes people, He's not being cruel. He's being kind in advance. That caller, that connection, that sudden check-in was the test before your next blessing. You were never supposed to pick up because the moment you did, your peace would have leaked. Your progress would have slowed. You would have stepped out of divine timing to revisit an expired season. But you didn't. You paused. You listened. And in that pause, heaven smiled. That's how spiritual maturity looks, not through noise, but through restraint. There will come a day when you'll look back and thank God for every unanswered ring. You'll realize those were not missed opportunities. They were moments of protection disguised as silence. You'll understand that some people don't call because they miss you. They call because they sense your peace and want a piece of it. But God hid you in plain sight. He covered you with discernment so that even when deception speaks softly, your spirit recognizes the echo. You've become untouchable not because you fight louder, but because you listen deeper. You can sense intentions without words now. You can feel energy before it arrives. That's the divine shield surrounding you. And so, this is your closure. Not the kind that comes from conversation, but the kind that comes from elevation. You've outgrown the frequency of confusion. You no longer chase answers from those who spoke in circles. You no longer pick up calls from those who only dial when their life is falling apart. Your silence has become your declaration. I am no longer available for energies that don't align with peace. God is proud of you. Heaven is watching how you've mastered restraint, how you've learned to guard your energy with sacred precision. You've proven that you can be trusted with higher assignments because you no longer negotiate your boundaries. So when the phone rings again, let it. When the message appears, breathe. When the urge to explain rises, smile. You owe no words to what God already removed. The lesson has been completed. You've passed the test. The season of false voices has ended. What's ahead is clarity, alignment, divine partnerships, and a peace that no caller can interrupt. This was never about who's on the other line. It was about whether you would choose your purpose over your past. And you did. You are free now, chosen one. The silence that surrounds you is not emptiness. It's sacred space, where God whispers what comes next. Be still. The next call you answer will not drain you. It will define you. Because when you wait on divine timing, the right voice will call. And this time it won't bring confusion. It will bring destiny.